All right. We just came off a victory, 14 points over Vanderbilt, where two of our star players just went off. We finally got big Jabari game tonight, but we also got big Kessler game. Both guys had record scoring nights tonight. I think we're going to have a tough discussion for MVP, even though some people will probably think if Jabari goes off for 31 points, he goes 7 to 10 from a three line, how do you not give an MVP? Well, then you have Walker Kessler go off for 22 points and 7 blocks and 7 rebounds. They both just had fantastic games after a really rough start to finally end this game up 14 points.
Yeah, we needed every bit of it. We'll gush about those two guys, but this was a kind of a rough game. Vanderbilt played great. Auburn kind of let them play great in some ways. But yeah, I mean, we talked about how great the front line is. We knew Jabari could be just this unbelievable player, but I texted you. I think this Walker Kessler thing, man, this is like one of the most unexpected, shocking things I can remember in all my life following sports. I mean, I'm trying not to like overreact, but at this point, we're seeing like such elite, historic play from him. It's not even. You and I are in agreement on this. I don't even think the nation or the media or anybody is even like fully acknowledging how special it is. So we'll definitely have our two best players, in my opinion. We'll get to gush a lot tonight about how they played.
I feel like the media is just really lagging behind on Kessler right now because I mean, we were too, honestly. We're huge fans. Go back and listen to like our first like 5 to 10 podcasts, and we're like, sure, Kessler's fine. I hope he can get it going. Oh, he can't shoot really. Like give him like there's like that slogan now. Give people their roses or give people their flash. He's arrived. Walker Kessler, man. The big thing with this, like in the MVP discussion, to me, is that Jabari, he got his 31 points, which we knew he could do something like that. He could go for 31. But honestly, in my head, like this kind of game from Jabari would have been a hot 3 night. Sure, it would have been like 4 or 5 threes, not 7. And it would have been a couple more drives, a dunk or two, some free throws. You end up going 4-7 on the free throw line. But it wasn't a diverse game from Jabari. He just got so hot from 3. We fed him and he took them and hit them, And so to see Kessler on the other side, who's been building up to this every game. He had a triple-double last Saturday. Was that this last set, like his last game? Was that last game? Did he have a triple-double? Damn, I mean, they just keep coming, so they kind of blur a little bit. But man, he had a triple-double last Saturday, and now he's going up for 22 with 7 blocks. And this 22 is not off of these like some of his offense from earlier in the year was off these Wendell Green alley-oops. And that one game he hit a couple threes. Okay, well, that's why he went on. No, he's just getting so good with the ball on offense. He's dunking everything, and then he's getting these. He had a hamburglar moment. KD didn't have a hamburglar moment. Walker Kessler had a hamburglar moment. He picked somebody's pocket on the 3-point line and took the ball all the way down there and did a finger roll to the goal. It's like, that's gonna be the difference between picking Jabari and him. It's just that I feel like Kessler's is sustainable. This is like what he's been building to, and something that I think he can keep doing. Jabari Smith's like going off for 7 3-pointers. I don't know if that's sustainable or not. If that's like, maybe it is. It hasn't been like that all year. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on like, doing the two differences between these two guys?
Well, I think at this point, Walker's predictable in the sense that he controls so much of the game. It's just becoming blatantly clear when he's on the floor. There's just certain things about this team, especially on the defensive end. But you're seeing this offensive renaissance from him. You're right. It's the moves. It's the flexibility. His confidence is just soaring. There was a great moment. By the way, Auburn won this game 94-80 over Vanderbilt. I'm not sure we ever said that.
That's a 14-point victory, but you're right. I don't know if I ever mentioned Vanderbilt, and that's how far this Vanderbilt team is. We knew coming in. I even texted Matt like, it's a late night game. I hope we don't have a lot to talk about. Well, we don't necessarily have a ton to talk about from like a losing. Like I was thinking like if we lost the game, we'd have a lot to talk about. We won by 14, which is kind of expected. In fact, the line was 13, I think. So Vegas is on, I don't think Vegas probably thought it would go this way, but we do have a lot to talk about because these two guys played so well. And then there's some other parts of the game, some other players we actually have to talk about the other way. But
yeah. I just think Kessler, it's so cool. We always talk about Bruce and his confidence building, how he gets his guys to believe and they show confidence. But we always think about that with shooting, right? And even with this 3-point shooting slump, and how is he going to get he said this week, we're not going to change how we shoot. We're not going to change who shoots. They just need to make more. And but man, Kessler is just doing things on a nightly basis. Vanderbilt had 2 7-footers. I mean, I really thought this could be a game look, I don't know the advanced scouting report on Vanderbilt. I will say they were 5-6 in the league. They had to go to Tennessee and lost a tough one. They had to come here. So like Vanderbilt's playing really well, and it showed. They were completely comfortable. But just for Kessler, he rose to that challenge. You remember that part of the first half where the other 7-footer like had a 3, dunked on him, like had some big moments, and Kessler went right back at him and scored, not just with his defense, but with his offense. And to see him go 6 for 7 from the free throw line, 8 for 10, 22 points on 10 shots is incredible. He was 8 for 9 from 2. He had 1 missed 3, 7. I mean, the blocks are just silly at this point. They put up the graphic. He almost has more. He could end up with more blocks by himself than any SEC team this year. It is possible.
If he keeps trending this week, that's the other part of it. There was a thing I posted on Reddit about a guy from Twitter posted that Kessler has more threes or higher 3% or something like that than every team in the SEC. And people were like, got on me because like, if you look at the year's worth of statistics, that's not true. But if you look at just conference play, Kessler has a higher block percent than any other team in the league just by himself, which is just insane. That's the other part of this is just so mind blowing. He's doing this in conference play. All this, like, you picked in our SEC preview that Jabari would be this kind of guy, that like Jabari would take the next step in SEC play. And you could kind of see that from a guy like Jabari, a 5-star younger guy or whatever. Kessler has another year. So we didn't kind of think that he would take that next step necessarily, especially after like that Atlantis game against Sonogo. We kind of thought, oh, maybe he gets pushed around a little bit in the SEC. We'll see what happens. He is taking the next step. He did a triple-double in his first game in the SEC, and he hadn't looked back since, really. It's insane. And Jay Lowry, one of our people that listen that usually hits me up on Instagram on our things, so hit us up on the Jungle Instagram or Twitter, and we'll shout you out. He says it's an easy MVP with Jabari, but I say not so. And I say there's a couple reasons why. Not only is like, I feel like Kessler's more sustainable and impressive in that standpoint. It's hard to say a guy that scored 31 that he can't just automatically win the MVP. But another part of this, the beginning of the game was really rough. We went down 11-0 to start the game. It was really like, I texted Matt too on this one. I was like, if this was a better team, I'd be very upset. But because it's Vanderbilt, we have like this little bit of chill a little bit. This could have gone another way, but it kind of went the way you expected, even when they went up 11, that we'd get it together, whatever. But a big part of that was Jabari. Jabari, just the first couple of shots were all Jabari, and none of them happened. And then he also threw the ball away really badly under the basket on one of them. So like we started roughly because of him. Luckily, he came back and like made up for it with those 7 threes. But you got to take that into perspective. And then another thing, when Jabari was out, like he had 28 points, and then he left the game for 5 or 6 minutes, and Jalen Williams played for a long time, and we didn't miss a beat. Kessler went off during that point. And at that point, we thought it's Jabari all the way. There's nobody who's going to get close. We weren't even thinking of other MVPs. But then Walker just went off during that time period and scored a ton, did some 3-point plays, ball through contact, just super impressive stuff. And a part of that is that when Kessler's out, I always know when Kessler's out because it affects the defense so much. Cardwell is a good player, but Kessler on defense is a monster. He's the best in the nation. We're glad that Cardwell is in the top 5 in the SEC, but Kessler's the best in the nation. When Jabari's out, I don't always feel that way. I notice a lot of times, but there's been plenty of runs when Jabari's not in there, and we like just kind of forget about it for a little bit. I think like, I don't know, that it's just not, it's hard not to give it to Kessler too, though, as much as it's hard not to give it to Jabari.
Kessler didn't do anything in the first 5 or 8 minutes either. Really, the whole team didn't. The whole starting unit kind of struggled. Jabari took the shot, but we want Jabari to take. I mean, we're not going to – I don't think we can – it wasn't good. I texted you the same thing. But I thought Jabari saved us at the time where we desperately needed it in the first half. You could say maybe we would have eventually gotten it anyway. But Vanderbilt's offense didn't slow down until the very end of that first half. So Auburn, they went down 11. They clawed back within 3 or maybe no, they tied it and they went back down 11 or 8 again. They dropped that back, and Jabari just kept coming and kept shooting and kept hitting shots once he got past those first few minutes. To me, it's Jabari's the MVP of this game, in my opinion. I don't know. I mean, the fact that we're even having a conversation is just a testament to how great Kessler is. Jabari, the shooting is exactly what we wanted to see. He did get to the line 7 times. He only made 4, which for him's, weirdly low. But he went 3 for 6 from 2. He did go 7 of 10 from 3. I felt like there was a variety there. They used him as a zone breaker in the middle of, Vanderbilt tried to go zone every time Jabari hit a shot to just like take them out of it so fast. He is, and I keep saying it, but his defense is just so much better than it was in the beginning of the year. At the first half, you could just tell once he started making shots, it wasn't just offense; it was the entire thing. He was terrific. The stats may not show it necessarily, but he just did he's so solid defensively. He can guard so many different positions like flawlessly, kind of like Kessler, right? We have all these guys who can do that.
Was he on Pippen most of the night? I did see them matched up a good amount, but I couldn't tell if like we were moving different guys or it's man, so they were switching so much.
Yeah,
what the deal was.
Our plan was to switch everything on Pippen screens, so they ended up getting, and Vanderbilt probably wanted a lot of those switches. And I thought Kessler and Jabari did really well. I thought everybody did a good job. Scottie Pippen's an incredible player. I haven't watched him much. He was amazing tonight. He really was. He did so many good things for them.
He ended up with 29 points. I guess we kind of expect that from some of these guards sometimes, but man, it was impressive. He got 16 or 14 of 16 of that on the free throw line, 14 of 16 from the free throw line. So he got a lot. There was some weird ref stuff. And then also to speak about that first part of the game too, when we were talking about how it went so badly to start and nobody did much. Or even Kessler, he did get beat like 3 points in a row by them. But one that was impressive was this big 7-foot dude, and he shot like a fadeaway 3 in Kessler's face to start the game. And that was kind of the story of the game. He also hit a hook on him, and like some other weird shots went in. They were shooting 60% from 3 at the end. Like it was 57% or something like that at the end of the half. And they were shooting 60% from 3 for a good deal of that first half. And it was just one of those that like, when something like that fade away 3 over Kessler goes in, you're just like, okay, it's that kind of game for them. And you knew it wasn't sustainable. And it definitely wasn't. They ended up with 26% from 3 when they ended the half 57% from 3. I don't know if they hit up 3 the entire second half of that percentage changed like that. So
it won. Yeah, you're right. They got hot. And first of all, I have to point out that 7-footer apparently is a transfer from Minnesota. It's funny when you watch teams that you just haven't really watched. Like, I'll be honest, I don't think I've watched Vanderbilt maybe more than 15 minutes this year. And I was like, who is this 7-foot guy who has great touch, can hit threes, and can dunk over Kessler? And why have I not heard about him? And it's because I guess he was hurt and it was his 3rd game or something. So he's a good player. I mean, he showed some flashes. Ultimately, though, the thing we've kept saying, Auburn didn't have their best stuff for most of the night, although we'll talk about their offensive efficiency numbers were really good tonight. But the thing is, just so hard for regular teams to keep up with this for 40 minutes. I mean, it's just really challenging. Vanderbilt, I felt like played about as well as they could. They were down 1 player, I know, but like it really felt like they've had a good plan. They were confident. They came in, they got the early lead, but it just like Pippen was terrific. They just couldn't hold up for 40 minutes against our depth, and that continues to be a huge story.
Now we try super hard to never do a dual MVP. We've done it twice this year. Once before we really put up that rule, and then the second time was also deserved. I can't remember who actually got that, but I remember we had to do it. And it seems like Matt is very into the fact that Jabari has secured this MVP. I think your mind's going a little bit because like we had decided when he had 28 points that had already locked it up, But and it's just so like both guys scored the record amount of points they've scored in their career. 31 and 22. They're both like, if either one of them did their record numbers, because they both had great games already this year, you would have just like, if I told you before the game, Walker Kessler makes his record, scores more than he scored his entire career, whatever, you'd be like, all right, well, then he probably is going to lock up the MVP. Same with Jabari. So they both did it. I'm tempted to give them both as much as we act like we're not going to do both. And on top of that, like I gave those other points, like Walker did this all game long, in my opinion. I know you said he disappeared at the start too, but I say he did all the game long, and I say he did it in a sustainable way that makes me like, maybe it's my own biases that I'm like, this is better season-wise that Kessler's continuing to do this and continuing to build. I don't think what Jabari did tonight is something that we're going to build on top of.
That's a different conversation, though. That's not the MVP from the game.
Yeah, so maybe I'm bringing my own biases in, and I'm crazy for not wanting to just give Jabari an MVP.
I'm fine doing both. You're the anti-both MVP guy, so I'm a little surprised. But I mean, we can do
both guys have a career night like that. You're right, though. Maybe we.
Well, ultimately, though, do we win this game without either one of them? No.
No.
in my opinion.
It's annoying with both of them a little bit. I was texting this during the thing too. Kessler's offensive game has gotten so good, like finishing the ball and with great touch. He's got like an arsenal at this point. Can you believe it? Like 10, 15 games ago, we didn't think he had any offense at all. And now he's got an arsenal. Like I'm cool with him pulling up from three. He showed in a game that he can hit 3 of them in a game. He's like he had a great jump shot tonight.
Yeah.
It was perfect. He's driving the ball really well. He's dunking on people. He's got the alley-oop. He can hamburglar like KD, like the arsenal he has now. And we got to get him the ball more. In a game like this, when we're struggling early, give him the ball. He'll probably finish some, or at least get a foul and get to the free throw line and then hit 6 or 7 from the free throw line. Like, it's incredible.
I don't know if that's sustainable. I think I trust Jabari shooting threes more than Walker at the line, but he has been getting better. I'm fine with both. Look, they are both so clearly the reason that Auburn won this game. You know, we'll talk about other stats and stuff, but like sometimes, and Bruce has been saying it for a while, like he always says, you know, we have 10 and you don't. Like we have Jabari and you don't. We have Walker and you don't. And there's nobody who can match those two skill sets. They're both such unicorns at their position for the college game. It's really special. And you made a great point. You know, they showed that graph of 3-point shooting national champions and all that. And you're right. Like that's the way the college game has gone. But what college team in the last 5 years has had a 6'10" power forward that can do what Jabari can and a 7'1" guy who can do what Walker can? Like nothing comes to mind for me off the top of my head.
Teams just aren't set up like this in college basketball anymore. Like, yeah, they're all set up with these guards shoot like we saw in our Final Four team. Teams are just set up like that. And they showed the teams that did it. And those teams might have had a good front court guy, but not the dual guys that we have. 2 guys that I think, I've looked at some draft boards with Walker, and I think he's moving up the boards at this point, but like you said, he's behind. It's kind of annoying. I think he would have got a lot more hype if the NBA just like didn't exist. Walker might have more hype than Jabari at this point. A lot of Jabari's hype is based off this NBA stuff and ESPN pushing their draft and everything. So that's annoying. So I don't want to be the guy that brings that up. But it's just no one has a front court like this. We knew it before the season, but this has beats our expectations, right? This beats like even our wildest dreams, right?
Yes.
It's insane.
Especially Walker. I mean, like,
yeah.
This whole Walker thing is crazy.
He's doing it in a way we didn't expect either, right? Because the whole narrative was they didn't let him shoot threes at UNC, and okay, maybe he's like this like Dirk Nowitzki type or whatever to lead the nation in blocks and be as physical as he is. Like, blowing my mind right now. I say if you're gonna have 2 career nights for our 2 best players, they deserve it both.
Let's go. I'm cool with it.
All right, the decree is down. I swear we won't keep doing this. We've only done it for the 3rd time. I know it's me that's being funny about it. It's only our 3rd time, but if there's another guy on this team that has we have 2 guys on the team that have career nights again, we'll have to think about it. All right, well that's our MVPs. That's pretty good. What else do you want to talk about? You want to talk more game stuff? You want to talk the pregame notes? Or
yeah, let's do some overall game stuff. So again, I feel like there's this theme with this team where we've seen so many first halves or second, where Auburn just struggles, and sometimes it's been on the road. This one was at home. I mean, did you just laugh at halftime when we were up 4 after that? Like, it's crazy. And it should make you appreciate how good this team is, that you could not only go down 11, like early, 11-0, but just like you never felt like you stopped Vanderbilt the whole half. And it just felt like Jabari was hitting shots, but I mean, other than that, it didn't feel like even we were doing great offensively. And you're up 4 somehow at the end. It's crazy, despite the refs. Let's talk about the refs. Let's talk about the refs a little bit.
If Matt is upset with the refs enough to talk about the podcast, it's messed up.
Let's talk about the refs. I'm just going to make a few points, and then you can chime in. Number 1, it's going to be a bad day. I know this is a small thing, but I noticed these things. The opening tip was thrown like 18 inches to the right of center to Vanderbilt's side. Kessler didn't win it, so they get the first possession off that. No big deal, right? Well, then later in the half, there's a ball that KD's driving. It gets knocked out of his hands out of bounds. And then the refs just gather. I really have, maybe I've seen it like 3 times in my life. They get together. Nobody saw it. So we're just going to call it a jump ball. And that let us keep the ball, but it took our possession away. We were going to have the first possession of the second half. That gets taken away. the same possession, Jabari takes that three, gets fouled, and for some reason, unknown to man, they don't call it a 3-point foul. They call it a 1-and-1. Fortunately, Jabari nailed both.
You're talking about when he swung through the classic.
He didn't even swing through.
Yeah.
He just went up.
Yep.
So
he does that. It's a thing that Jabari does. He does this move. They're too far up on him, and he can go through their arms to shoot. It works every time because it's a foul. It's real. And if it's a foul, like it's one. If they didn't call that a foul at all, that's one thing. They called it a foul. Like, what did you think he was doing? Did you think he was rising up to pass the ball? Did you think what was he supposed to be doing other than shooting? Like, it's insane.
And there's a subtle difference, right? Like if you watch the game a lot, like there's a swipe through to get a foul. That's fine. But that was a clear gather to shoot. Like you have to know the difference. They did not. Overall, they were just way, way too involved in the game. It really was one of those games against a lesser team where it just felt like it was one of those nights. I kept seeing Derek Hall, a player of another sport, on campus, and he was just so disappointed every time they would show him because that game took forever. It took longer than it should have because there were so many fouls, and they kind of took control of the game, and it was frustrating because, again, we've talked about this. When the refs call games like that, it really limits how Auburn can control the tempo. Until the second half in that stretch where they kind of stretched the lead out, Auburn could never get going in their traditional fashion. And it makes you not as aggressive on defense, which is kind of our thing, to be able to be aggressive and not foul on defense.
If this game had ended up closer, or if it was a different team, or if one of our players had fouled out, I would be a little more pissed. Just looking at it, I was almost not shocked, but because I knew some of these guys had foul trouble. But Flanagan had 4, KD Johnson had 4, Zep Jasper had 4. Zep was the one that suffered the most. He was on the bench a good bit. Their team had 2 guys with 4. So the fact that no one fouled out of this game is kind of a minor miracle. And then also made the refs look better than they should be, because it kind of underlines sometimes when a guy fouls out that clearly doesn't deserve it. There were some weird fouls too. Wendell had a weird one. He's had this twice now. Maybe I'm missing something, but Wendell gets picked on, and there's a lot of teams doing that now where they're trying to switch onto Wendell or even Zep or KD down low with a larger guy. It's becoming quite the trend. I don't know if we need to figure something out with that. But Wendell has been decent at it. He pulls the chair out sometimes, but twice now he's pulled the chair out on a guy and they call the foul on him. It's really infuriating. I don't know if he's really is pulling or something. I'm missing it, but I think that's crazy. KD had a foul that was stupid. It was super far away from the basket. Or not far away from the basket. The referee was on the complete other side of the court. He has the guy on the baseline or whatever you call it, the out of bounds line, staring at him. And it's the guy from the other side of the court that calls the foul. And I'm like, what are you doing? If your guy on the other side's not calling it, why are you calling it? It wasn't like at the basket or something with a weird angle. It was just KD playing regular defense. It was just, there was a couple weird ones like that. I wish I could have wrote them down. There was not any humongously egregious, other than that Jabari one was really egregious. But there's a lot of little ones that you were just like, are you serious, man? You're going to call that? I think there was a weird one with either Jabari or Kessler where they were running after the ball and they called one that I was like, are you serious? That one? You're going to call that?
Well, when you're calling whistles all the time, you start seeing ghosts, and there were definitely some ghost fouls where it's like, what are you like? It was just you could tell, and really, this is a sidebar. I didn't think Auburn Arena was necessarily hopping for this game either, and I think it kind of got caught early, but the refs kind of I think brought some of that out, and then the better play kind of got everything going.
Bruce got a text super early.
Yeah, what was that?
That was weird. I didn't like that one because we had literally just come off another game where we saw Nate Oates get kicked out of the Alabama game for getting 2 techs in a 2 minutes of gameplay. Of course, the narrative is whenever those guys do that and get kicked out, if their team ends up winning, oh, what a great thing. He got his team fired up on a weird night. And if they lose, oh, what a mistake or whatever. But so their team, Alabama won. So he got praise for firing up their team, even though they were playing a really crappy Mississippi State team that hasn't won a single game on the road. So whatever. Anyways, Bruce ended up with one in the first 3 or 4 minutes. You just can't do that. You can't get that tech, in my opinion, because there's not enough gameplay. Even if the refs are screwing it up or something, or your team needs to energy, just wait a couple more minutes.
But what did he do?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
I don't think he did anything. I think sometimes the refs have to realize, I don't know. It goes back to the KD thing. If you're going to let KD run around like a madman the entire game, and you know what you're getting from Bruce, you know all these guys in the league. I don't understand. I don't even care what he said. I don't even care what he did. You just don't need to do it. I mean, unless he's verbally attacking you and your family and I mean, there's no need for it. It was ridiculous. And so you kind of knew it was going to be that kind of game when you started seeing fouls like that, the tech on him. And look, it was 27 fouls on us, 23 on Vanderbilt. They ended up shooting 32 free throws. We had 26. So they had a slight foul edge advantage or whatever. Ultimately, it didn't matter. We know, we've watched this for a long time. I love the hashtag on Twitter, the refs. Everybody just talks about the refs, in this thing. But it's frustrating. But
it's like 50% of threads on college basketball. The subreddit is just post game, screw the refs, F the refs, all this stuff. You hate to see it, especially from like a big upset or something, and you don't get to watch it, and like you can't even like filter through the freaking comments for F the refs. And you're like, we get it, the refs suck all the time, but it's common in college basketball for the refs to suck. So
well, it's the hardest sport to officiate. It really is. I've done it at a very low level. It's very challenging. There's a lot going on. The athleticism is amazing these guys have. If you ever go to a game in person, you see how quick the game is, and you have to make these split-second decisions. My thing is, no one of any fan base likes the over foul called game. Like, I understand you need to blow your whistle early. You need to kind of set the tone. But Auburn was in the bonus, with 13 minutes left in both halves. And that just shouldn't happen with a team that's as well disciplined as Auburn in terms of what they do defensively. You can't tell me that, they're fouling once every minute, once every possession, basically defensively. It's ridiculous. We see it it's been less this year, I feel like. Maybe it's because we have a better team that's smarter about it. It feels like we've negated a lot lot of the referee craziness. Maybe it's because we're winning. We just don't notice. But tonight was bad.
An interesting part of this game, or just showing narrative going forward, is we talked about after the Texas A&M game, are we trending in the right direction? And we didn't feel like we were. And there are some things we can talk about with that. It's annoying that we went down so badly early on, 11-0 to start. It's a trend now that we are not starting games very well, and that we're going down against opponents, having to come back. We've had other teams like that, and it's been part of their personality that they're going to dig a hole and dig out. I don't want that to become a part of our personality now. And at a conference, we jumped on teams, and now we're getting jumped on. They were shooting 60% from three at one point. So part of that's because they were shooting so well, but part of that, it seems to be becoming a trend. If you're going to go down like that at home, you're confident you can make a comeback. You go down like this at Florida and at Mississippi State, all of a sudden you're a little you just can't keep doing this. We came back, and these games are games of runs. And we had a big run after they did have that 11-0 start or 14, whatever start, back and forth. You knew they were going to start making their runs, so they took it back, and we made ours. Luckily, we were at home, so we just started putting the foot down, 3/4 through the first half, and never looked back after that. But at Vanderbilt, this might have been a different story. At Mississippi State, at Florida, we got to stop digging these holes early in games. I don't know what's going on. If it's we look a little lost on offense to start games, we just can't seem to get moving. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the trend of we keep going down?
Most of it's been on the road. This was the first one. I mean, I think you were accurately, our offense wasn't good to start the A&M game. They were just missing everything, and our defense was better. Our defense was better on Saturday, I think, coming off game day, and our defense was completely locked in against A&M from the start. We had a few lax possessions there against Vanderbilt to start, and we've seen that, but I feel like this is the first time we've had that happen at home. So it's definitely something to track. I still think this team's kind of going through a bit of a lull for their potential, at least. I don't think tonight fixed that. We just had two great. Well, by the way, we're going to talk about players later, but Wendell Green ended up with 12.7 rebounds and 9 assists. He almost had a triple double.
He had 12 rebounds.
7 rebounds, 12 points.
Okay.
That's a great line. We'll talk about him later, but I just couldn't believe that I just looked at his stat line.
Oh, wow. 9 assists. Okay.
Anyway.
The other trend that we can talk about that we talked about in the other game is 3-point percentage shooting. And you put that as plenty of pregame notes. We ended up shooting 50%, 11 of 22. Part of that is the 7 of 10 from Jabari. The other guys that hit some were KD, 1 of 2, Jalen, 0 of 1. Devin Cambridge had his 1 of 3. Wendell had 2 of 5. So most of it, Kessler also had an 0 of 1. So a lot of it comes from Jabari hitting 7 out of 10. I'm still not super happy. Wendell hit his logo 3, which he hadn't in a while. And someone tweeted that he hadn't hit a 3 in several halves, 3 halves, I think. So I think he didn't hit his first 3 until the second half, maybe. And so that was the whole last game in the first half of this one. So I don't know. I feel like we still got to it can't just be Jabari hitting threes. We got to get some other guys on this team that can hit their open threes. KD's gotten like allergic to shooting threes now for some reason. He does not shoot open threes. He only shoots like these weird dribble threes. I don't know. These guys keep passing up open threes and it's kind of infuriating.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that. I thought this was a big step in the right direction, and here's why. If you look outside of Jabari, we're 33% as a team. If you take, I'm not worried about Kessler's 3-point percentage. So I'm thinking about, I think your note even talked about, the guys off the bench, the guys we've talked about, the need to shoot better. They were 36%. Everybody else besides Jabari and Kessler today were 36, which is that's a good percentage. I mean, I know it's not 50, but that's not realistic. I think we've been in the 20s and like the teens. I mean, so I thought it was much better. I thought we got good looks. It was great to see Cambridge hit a tough one. Feels like he hasn't hit a tough one in a while. KD's got to shoot more. He hit one that's kind of in your face three. Wendell hit a long one. I thought it was good. I thought overall, obviously Jabari makes it a 50% shooting night. And, you've questioned his percentage, and every time you check, it's still right around 40. Yeah. It's still going to be.
Well, it's going to go up after he shoots 70% in this game. So,
and he's just been more consistent than people realize, and I don't think people understand how rare it is to be able to shoot 40 consistently as a freshman in this league. It's tough.
Part of it might be because the rest of the 3-point shooting's been going so badly that I'm asking too much of him. I mean, to win this game or to feel like we were in this game at different parts, we needed him hitting this many. And that's insane to ask for him to shoot 7 to 10 and score 31 points for us. We ended up winning by 14. So it's whatever, he didn't need to do that necessarily, but at times it felt like he did.
No, so when he was at 28 and one of my friends texted me, he's like, dude, he might go for 40. I was like, dude, we might need him to score 40. Yeah. The way this game was going, it felt
that was right before Walker went off and we sealed the deal or whatever. You're right. About that time when he took his ride on the bench for a little bit there, he might have would have needed to come back in and win the game, which is crazy. That's why the rest of the team's got to step up a little bit. That's why I thought KD maybe be a 3 guy and he's passing up these open threes. I'm glad he's not shooting crazy volumes, but I would also, if he's going to catch one and he's open, shoot the 3. Flanagan didn't shoot any tonight, but that's better than his air ball, I guess. But I assumed he would come in and bring some 3. We just don't have another guy really that's our 3. I guess Wendell's got his logo 3s. They're all logo 3s. He doesn't have we don't have a catch and shoot guy, do we? I guess that's what we're getting to, is we don't have a guy that we feel like we can kick out and make a shot. Jabari, he's not a kick and shoot guy. He's an isolation guy. We need the sniper guy. We need the Ray Allen that sits in the corner waiting. We thought maybe Cambridge could be that guy, and he's just not quite that guy,
Well, when we get Jabari in rhythm as a spot-up shooter, it's going in. That's what you've been talking about. He's missed some of those lately, so that's still part of the plan. But yeah, you're looking at Cambridge, Flanagan, Jalen Williams, Zep. Any of those guys can hit open shots. I thought Wendell passed up a few easier 3s too tonight. I think Wendell's going. We'll talk about him, but I think he's going through some adjustments on how he's being defended, and he's still feeling his way through that a little bit.
We started the game. I said, "Is the X factor in this?" We're talking about this kind of offensive slump a little bit. It's we won by 14, but we're talking about how we kind of feel like we're in a little bit of a slump. We only have a couple more games to go back the other way. And I said, "Is the X factor in our slump the fact that Wendell's just not playing that great? He's not hitting his 3s, and he's not playing that great, and he didn't hit one in the first half. So that's part of the reason I was bringing that up, because our 3 was so bad that he wasn't hitting 3s, and that's a huge part of our offense. And then he just wasn't playing very well on offense. In any of these games, we need part of that's because Zep was out and we exhausted him or whatever. But we're going to need him to start coming back up on the other side here in the next couple of games.
I agree. Pre-game notes. Let's do pre-game notes. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Matt's pre-game notes. Can Jabari get back on track offensively, shoot close to 50%, and get to the free throw line? Dang, Matt, that's a stoop.
Let's go. No, I didn't know it'd be this, but I looked back at the game log before. Jackson always has to remind me to send in my pregame notes like a teacher. And I was looking through his games, and I was like, oh wow, he hasn't had one of those just off the charts pro games in a while. And we've talked about the 3 percentage, we've talked about all that. So I know you said it was 3 heavy. But look, that's his best trait that's going to make him a very rich person here pretty soon. I thought he did do a good job of balancing that. He has some mid-range. He did go to the basket. He did get fouled a lot. I thought it was his best game. Obviously scoring, it was his career high, but overall it just felt like he was completely locked in on both ends after that kind of, and doesn't it say more about him that he was able to do that after a really rough first few minutes? He didn't leave the floor. He didn't get a break. They kept him in, and he turned it on like that when we were down double digits early at home. Like don't take that for granted. Like a lot of guys, if you start 0 of 3, 0 of 4, whatever it was for him, and I thought my pregame note was going to be terrible because he missed his first 3 or 4 shots, and it's like, oh, well, there goes that percentage. He ends up, over 50, which is fantastic. The 3, we needed every bit of it. I hate that we needed it as much as we did, but it shows you that elite level that he has that we've kind of been just begging to see glimpses of, and tonight was definitely one of them.
He's still trying to do a dribble drive at times, which has like been my note on him, that we really need him to dribble drive. And I saw on one of the message boards today that some like rival coach, like an anonymous scout of our team or whatever. And did you see that? They did part of that was that he's extremely right-handed. So if you can stand his right hand, that's a thing. They say if you could get him to dribble the ball, he disappears at times with dribbling the ball. And like the guy made it sound like it was easy to guard Jabari or something, when clearly it's not. Even if you know that he's right-handed, you don't like to dribble, he'll just keep hitting threes in your face. But we want him to drive a little more. We kept like the last, like, I guess like beginning midway through this SEC play, we've been talking about like that's the one thing we need him to do, so he doesn't have games where he has 9 points and games where he has 7 points. If he can triple drive, he can get a free throw line, he can pick up some hard twos. You keep pushing on that. I keep pushing on that until the very last game of SEC regular season. If he can't get a game where he's got a couple of those in a game by the end of SEC regular season, I'm about done with it and just say, all right, we got a great 3-point shooter that can play great defense as a big guy, and we'll treat you like that. We need to I wish we at some point you have to kind of switch and be like, let's get this guy some open threes instead of playing. Like, it's hard for me to watch that ISO ball sometimes because him rising up makes it open, but it'd be a lot nicer if he was just wide open. He had one on this game when he passed up an open 3 that pissed me off I think Cambridge or Jalen offensive. Like the most open 3s you're ever going to get is off offensive rebound. I think it was Cambridge got one, kicked it out to him. He looked at it for a second and decided to dribble in. I think he lost the ball after that. Maybe he turned it over, I want to believe, or something.
What do you want him to do, Jackson? You want him to go to the basket? You want him to take 3s?
Take open 3s and then go to the basket if they're all over you. And then, like, I don't know, a minute or two later, he had another wide open one. And when he hit that 3 wide open, it looks so pretty. It's like he's so large too that he almost makes it look like a not 3-pointer. He makes it look like a jump shot because he's so large. He's like almost like throwing it down at the basket a little bit. So if we can get him open 3s, they're going in. We just got to get him a little more open than these ISO ones, as much as he went off this game with them.
I'm looking at the highlights right now, and quite a few. One was against the zone. He walked into it, so he didn't have a guy right on him. One was off a pick and pop where he got a great look. It wasn't an ISO. So, I think we remember the ISOs because they're so noteworthy.
Yeah.
And then he got another one off a steal. I'm just sorry. They're showing literally every one of his 3s where the guy threw it right to him. He just caught it right at the 3-point line and drained it. So he got some open looks in a lot of different ways. There were a couple of heat checks. There were a couple ISOs.
He had a really bad heat check one where we were like on fast break or something. And I'm glad he's instinctively taking a 3 in the fast break when he's this hot, but he couldn't stop in time. So he was leaning forward and fading forward into the 3. I was okay with it because I was like, he's that hot that you do that, but it was bad. Your next note is Auburn has the advantage in rebounding and turnovers in the season stats. Can they win both categories?
So they were up in turnovers. They had a really sloppy second half in some ways. It just, so we ended up losing turnovers by 1, 17-16. Shout out to the establishment in Auburn. And then Vanderbilt won points off turnovers by 1. So turnovers were pretty much even. We did win rebounding by 7. But, we didn't assert our will on the glass, I didn't feel like, or in the turnover game. We did at times. We did bother Vanderbilt. We did get out and run. But, man, we turned a lot. Didn't it feel like we were so close like a couple mistakes on fast breaks or just fumbling the ball away, or we got a steal once. Flanagan just let the little white kid take it from him, which we'll talk about later. But like, just I don't know. We didn't quite take advantage of that like I thought we should have to take care of business tonight.
We just have not been thriving in the chaos that you kind of like thought was part of our personality, was that if games get wild and sloppy, we're the ones that are like doing cool moves and alley-oops and finishing the ball. I've been harping on it for like 10 games now. It feels like we cannot finish on breakaways. It was KD that we were getting on at first because he kept like drawing contact instead of making it. Then Cambridge has issues doing it, even though like we saw that amazing dunk in the Texas A&M game where he took off. This time he got it swiped out of his hands when he thought he was going to do that. Zepp can't seem to do it. Flanagan had a god awful game that he can't seem to do stuff. I just feel like we're not finishing in transition, and it's becoming an issue.
Get out of here with this Zepp slander. He has the best fast break finish of a small guard all year. Okay, maybe not. KD's had better, but he had a beautiful one that you got mad at him for not passing for, and it was perfect.
Well, he had one, but he has had several that he did not finish, where there was at least one in particular that was the opposite of beautiful, where most of the time, at least when KD goes up, he gets the foul call. This time Zepp didn't even get the foul call. We just had turnover off a fast break because he didn't pass the ball. So overall, I just don't know why we're not finishing balls. Maybe it's because our guys are small. I know Kessler knows how to do it. He grabs that ball and goes all the way down and does a finger roll. Just be 7'1" and finger roll the ball in every time, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So just something to watch on those. Your last one is, can Flanagan build off his productive game against A&M? Oh my God. Let's talk about this.
Bad. This was one of your notes too. So let's go ahead and talk about him so we don't have to in the player section. It was really bad. Like, I think people who have listened know me. Like, I'm a pretty middle ground guy most of the time. Like Jackson joked, when I complain about the refs, it's really bad. I never want to like pick on an athlete that's a way better basketball player than I ever could have dreamed of being. We know Flanagan's has this potential. He was first team All-SEC this year. Even with the injury, people still thought enough of him to vote him that way. I think we're going to get that next year. I still have high hopes for him, but man, like right now, he just really looks lost. Like, it just 6 turnovers. 4 fouls, 2 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist in 23 minutes. And he got beat defensively quite a bit. He was getting the ball knocked out of his hands just all the time. He got a dunk off a Wendell lob, and that was like in transition when nobody was on him. That was his only point.
The only good thing is he didn't have his air ball 3 or his charge this game. He just had everything else go badly. So he at least cleaned up 2 things that were weird. I think, people are talking about it now that this game is kind of under. Like, it's so sad because it was last game he finally looked like maybe he was turning the corner. And my whole take on this is I think twofold now. My biggest one is I think he's a step slower than he thinks he is. That this injury, we talked to Anthony McLemore earlier this week. Go back and check out that show. Amazing. He talked about the injury in that South Carolina game. I looked at some of his stats and just was shocked. I was watching that season, but that was we kind of tuned into that one like as it grew or whatever. And he was amazing to start the season. He messed up his knee or whatever it ended up being, and he never looked the same since then. We thought Flanagan could just bounce back from this partially torn Achilles, and he clearly just can't. I'm hoping by next year, like you said, he'll be back to being his normal self. And like, that's the other side of the flip coin, is that I think he's a step slow, and that's why he's making some of these plays that like some of these charges he's taking and the air ball 3 things that he's not raising quite. Like, he got so used to a certain level and he's just not there, and he keeps trying to play within that level. It's like really screwing him up. But now I think there's a decent other percentage that's starting to happen where this team really melded together, and they had a conference play in the Bahamas down the stretch, early in SEC play, and learn how to play with each other and learn how to do how Green and Kessler learned how to oop together. They knew to get out of the way for Smith. They figured out their roles, and they figured out what they were doing and where they need to be and how they need to pass. And he just wasn't there for that. And we thought he could jump in, and he's just not. He just seems like on a different pace and a different clock than everyone else on the team. He just really we're seeing a lot more of Cambridge these days. I don't know what the minutes ended up being, but it feels like we're almost only the 6 points.
About the same, 24 and 23.
Yeah, it might be something we need to keep seeing, because Flanagan played that badly, and Cambridge is honestly like on the rise. It was crazy. I know he's not saying stop the presses.
Jackson he didn't call for more Cambridge, but he thought about it there.
it's I don't know. Cambridge is playing great and getting offensive rebounds and flying around playing good defense and made a 3 tonight stuff. So I don't know. I said we needed to be truly great. We needed Flanagan to come in and get tough twos. And that's maybe also part of our like offensive slump that I thought he would be getting some of those, and he's not at all. And he's a detriment with all his turnovers and everything. So I don't know what the solution is. I don't think putting Cambridge in the starting lineup or anything like that is going to solve that problem. You're seeing they're playing even minutes. And even if you did switch them the other way, I think you would still need to play even minutes because we saw what it looked like with Cambridge. And he's also not a start worthy guy right now. You just kind of thought we had a fifth start on any team in the SEC kind of guy. And we don't. That 3 spot's probably the biggest weakness on the team. So it's just how it is. All other teams have weaknesses. The ceiling's good on Flanagan if he can get there.
The move, they won't do this, but the move would be you start Wendell and you play KD and Zepp at 2 and 3.
That's a lot of small guards. That's a lot of small guys.
Yeah, but you would be bringing size off the bench. But I just think they love what they have with Wendell. Wendell came off the bench when we were down 9-0 or 7-0 or 11-0, whatever it was, and kind of even when he was struggling, he just has this way of settling things and then finishing things in a positive way too. I don't think they want to mess with that.
The turnovers really suck too, and a lot of it's all. I don't want to speak out of turn on exactly what, because the game goes so fast. I kind of forget exactly every 6 turnover. It's kind of a shame though that he had 6 of them, because when Zepp was out, it was good to have him as a backup point guard. We saw how bad he can be when you have a guy or two out at point guard, and they look absolutely miserable. And Allen looked decent at times in these other games, and to have 6 turnovers this one, because I was going to give him a compliment that at least like versus Cambridge, I don't feel good about Cambridge bringing the ball up or kind of doing anything like that. But like Flanagan, I felt a little better about it. But then you have 6 turnovers in the game, and now I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, it's one game. This is the worst
it's not been. One game. It's like
no. This is the worst it's been. And if you go back and look over all these games, he's playing. It's not even minutes. Now, if this starts becoming a regular thing, then we'll know the coaching staff sees something and they're making adjustments. I think this was a function of the gameplay. Cambridge got more minutes because KD was in foul trouble tonight. That's why Cambridge got up there.
Another thing that I talk about, not talk too long, but didn't you get a certain feeling from Flanagan near the end of the game, like the last 5 or so minutes? That's a big deal to feel like he feels frustrated, because that's the first time he's also that I felt that he I think there was maybe one where he tried to take the ball himself and was like, I'm going to go get mine because it's been a bad game for me and I'm going to go do it. And it just didn't work out at all. And then he went and fouled the guy really hard on the other side. And it was just that's not a good look that you're frustrated on the court.
I think he's been frustrated since he came back. And I'm sure it's boiling over, especially after this kind of game. He knows what he's capable at. I can't imagine obviously what his thoughts were going into this year. I mean, he was the guy, right? This was kind of his team. He was the veteran leader. This is a big curveball for him. And I think you're onto something there. We need to kind of track that a little bit, because Bruce is pretty clear, even in the press, he's been saying I need Allen to guard and rebound. That's what he needs to do to really help this team win championships. Him and Devin, he said that about both of them. And that 3 position, I think that he knows, with this makeup, with this team, that's their role. And Cambridge just kind of embraced it because of where he was at and where he has been. And that's a big pill to swallow for a guy like Allen Flanagan,
Well, you hope he keeps a good attitude, because we think he can still do great things next year. My notes, can we get our 3% shooting up, especially from bench players? Well, our 3% definitely went up, 7-10 from Jabari, 50% from the whole team. You hit a great point on some of the stats without Jabari, so they're looking better. I just kind of wanted Cambridge to hit a 3. I was kind of hoping for a Jalen 3 and a Cambridge 3, and some of these guys to kind of hit these open 3s. It's fine. It's just something to keep watching. We're going at Florida this Saturday, and it's a game that should be won. We should win that game, but it's so tough away. But if we can't make our open 3s, it's going to get real tough, and it's going to be real crap to drop a game like that when we have another game at Tennessee still on the schedule. So
guess where Florida is right now in our buddy Joe Lunardi. They're one of the first 4 teams out of the tournament. You know what gets you in the tournament? Beating the number 2 team in the country to build your resume. That's going to be a battle. I went to that Florida game in Auburn. I was really impressed with some of the athletes they have. They're 6-7 in the league or something like that. They've struggled, but they lost to A&M. A&M beat them by 1 at home yesterday.
They both scored in the 50s.
Yeah, Auburn should go win that game, but they probably should go beat Georgia and Missouri a little easier on the road than they did.
And Joe Lunardi is not my buddy. He's got us number 2, like a number 2 seed in the tournament. Screw all the Joe Lunardi. I saw him posted on the ESPN today that he's got us as a 2 seed right now.
No, he has us as number 2 overall, the second 1 seed.
That's not what I saw on the screen. It said 2
You
seed.
didn't see the right thing. We're number 1. He has Gonzaga as the number 1 overall seed, and we're the number 2 overall seed.
Okay. Well, at least I've heard some ESPN people and CBS people are really pissing me off, predicting that we could win the SEC and the Kentucky could beat us in the SEC championship game and take our number 1 seed from us. And we were really freaking pissed. Like that could legitimately happen. It just, even if they beat us in the SEC championship, we should not lose our number 1 seed, because if it was the other way around, I'm on a whole rant. But
that's stupid, because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, look, like we are in as good of a position as you could ever hope to be. But if we lose 2-3 games down the stretch, we probably won't be a 1 seed. It's okay.
Yeah. I'll be pissed. I really want that overall number 1 seed too. I'll be arguing about the Gonzaga stuff, which will be.
We're not going to get that. I don't think.
I know. We just won't get it against Gonzaga. They just locked them in. They played well at a conference, and now they are locked in no matter what happens and no matter how well we do. But
did you really play well in out of conference if you lost to Alabama?
Exactly. Thank you. We are on the same page. Not that an Auburn podcast is not going to be agree with me. Next one is can Jabari dribble and drive? No, not really. He had a great game. He had a lot of great threes. Could not dribble and drive really. He had one where he tried and turned the ball over early. I think he had another maybe where he got some free throws on it. I just need him to, I think that's his next step. And I think we're on the precipice of either him figuring it out or us giving up on it. And we're way closer to giving up on it than we are on the precipice the other way.
I would reframe that a little bit in the sense of he needs to have a counter punch when people get up in his grill. When they're right up on him, that's how everybody's guarding him. He can elevate over it, obviously. He can do the swipe through. It would be awesome if he had that third piece just to be a little half step quicker to be able to get to the bucket, finish, those tough twos, right? Like if Flanagan's not the guy getting you tough twos, Wendell started to struggle a little bit with how people are guarding him. I agree with you. I think you've been on the tough two thing, like who's going to be our guy? And I'm not going to be shocked if Flanagan does some of that. He's done some of that since he's came back. But maybe it would be awesome if Jabari could develop just a smidge more of that. Would be great.
Some stuff we did develop with him that's just disappeared recently is we tried to give him some balls down low, and he would back the guy down and have these great jump shots, and he got his 30th point and 31st point off one of those. We've just not seen it much. We've not seen him work down there. We've had issues all year trying to figure out how to work to these guys down low with Kessler and Jabari, and Kessler's having a great time, but when he gets backed up down there, we do not give him the ball most of the time. I went on a whole rant about how great Kessler was with the ball. And so I'd love to see it more. Jabari, that could be his tough two, is a jump shot. We just need to work it down there to him, and he's not doing it right now. So we're not calling it.
Jackson is critiquing Bruce's offensive coaching, even though we know Bruce only gives 2 or 3 post touches per game his whole career. It's just not going to happen.
Take more heat check timeouts, Bruce. There's a genius in here. Listen up.
Never going to happen.
Which hopefully, I don't know if we want to announce or not. Hopefully, no, I won't say. Okay. My last note is: Can we play fun Auburn basketball early and avoid playing hard minutes late? Absolutely not. We started 11-0.
Well, you're right. The start was terrible, but again, you just have to step back. We were up by 20. Late in this game. We put it away. This was not a game that was in doubt after we got past maybe the 10 or 15 minutes left in the game mark. So ultimately, when you start out that bad at home and you're able to reverse it, a 30-point swing like that, not at the end, just in this middle 25 minutes of the game, and you didn't really feel like you played that well, you got to realize how special that is, because it's pretty crazy stuff.
I guess in my mind, it was going to be like we did earlier in this year. We jumped on teams, and then we could kind of let them have their runs back to us. And then we always we're stretching out our lead each time. It wasn't like that, but you're right. If I had to think about what I meant by easy minutes late, It's when you're looking at like the 5-minute mark and you're thinking to yourself, in a minute or two, we're going to get some of these backups in. So that's kind of what we were doing. So
I just want to point out that they lost by 9 at Tennessee and by 7 at Rupp in the last 2 weeks. So I know, we're
the
just
big guy, big 7-footer. Is this he just come back in the last 2 weeks and now their whole thing is like changed? Or
well, everybody said he looked terrible against Sheboygan, which I think that was his first game, maybe. So that was 4 games ago. But I just to Vanderbilt was playing really well. They won 3 of their last 5. The 2 losses were at Kentucky, at Tennessee by single digits. Like they're not nearly as bad as they have been in the last few years.
Yeah. Well, that's all our pregame notes. I think we can go through the players quickly. These late night games, man, I'm on the East Coast. These late night games really get me. We talked about Walker. We talked about Jabari. We talked about Flanagan. KD's the next one that we haven't really like dived into necessarily. 7 points, 2 turnovers, 4 fouls, 3 assists. His assist game's turning up.
Yep.
1 of 2 from 3. Got us some tough points when we were. He just has a certain like. He knows when this team needs some tough points, and it's amazing. And like, I don't know, we need to find a better metaphor for like what he brings to this team, but he always seems to know when he needs to turn it up a notch and go get us a couple tough points. And he did that like midway through the first when we were struggling at times.
Yeah. Hey, 5 of those 7 were early. He hit a big kind of in your face 3, got out on the break, scored a layup that was really nice. And he really took the challenge. He only played 23 minutes because of foul trouble. Man, he really took the challenge of he was a really good perimeter defender against Pippen and other guards. I just wanted to give him a shout out. I thought he was under control. Again, it's not the Hamburglar craziness. He didn't have too many wild things in this game. Great passes. I think you're right. You're dead on about the open threes. He's got to have a quicker trigger when he's wide open because we need spot up shooter. We just talked about that. But I think they're in his head a little bit maybe about like share the ball a little more, because he started. The thing that was exciting tonight is when he gets in the lane going like a Tasmanian devil, usually it's going up, he's going to try to draw a foul. He was able to like walk that line and then give it up at the last second tonight, which was cool. It was a good addition to kind of see.
Overall, his passing's gotten a lot better in the last 10 games or so. So that's great. To go back to the open 3 thing too, it's clearly becoming a pet peeve of mine with his. I'm cool. Like I do want him to share the ball more. I don't want him to do the plays where he's dribbling at the 3 line for a while and then takes the 3. I want him to immediately grab the 3 off of somebody else driving and kicking it and hitting the 3. That's not selfish at all. That's just what you're supposed to do. In this game, he had a really bad one because he got in foul trouble, and half of that was because he passed up an open 3, then drove the ball and took a charge. And it was like, this is why you take an open 3. But he's I love the energy he brings. I think we need him. I don't know. It's just great. There's several guys on this team that when he can have a big game when other people are down, and somebody else has a big game when everybody else is down. So like that's just part of having a team this deep. So it wasn't like some big game from him. We didn't need it because it was Jabari and Walker's game, and maybe the next game's KD's game. It's great. The next guy, thank God, or not thank God necessarily. I have become a Zep believer. Zep is like, after missing him for 2 games, we've seen how big of a deal he is. And so a game like this, pre-Zep absence, I would have had some hot takes about Zep's importance to this team because he had 0 points, 4 fouls, 1 steal, no other stats. That's it. 0 points, 4 fouls, 1 steal. But Zep, man, we figured out how important he is. It wasn't a great game from him necessarily. He got in foul trouble on some weird plays. I feel like he took 2 weird offensive fouls, maybe. I think it was that I was like, dang, those were, maybe it wasn't offensive.
It's like I remember fighting through screens. Fighting through screens.
That's what it was. They took 2 weird ones on. But overall, like we know how important he is to this team. It wasn't a great game from him, but
he just think about. I mean, Scottie Pippen might have scored 40 points if we didn't have Zep because he really did hound him and I think he wore him down at different points of the game, and that was his whole. Again, that's what makes him such a valuable piece is he took that challenge head on. Bruce would have loved to have had him on Pippen for 25 minutes or 26 minutes instead of 16. It's the ultimate Zep that I said last game this is the ultimate Zep line. 0 of anything, 4 fouls. And yet, you were so glad that he's back healthy and part of this rotation because it just is so important. And I'm honestly thrilled that he missed 2 games because I really think, like you said, it opened a lot of eyes for our fan base as a whole. and everybody just says how good of a kid he is. And like, I'm a, you know me, president of the fan club. Hate that he got in foul trouble, some really bad calls, and he was close. He should have gotten a couple charges on Pippen. And you look at Pippen had 3 fouls. Like he was close to really impacting the game in that way as well.
We got to go check out College of Charleston's depth this year. We had 2 great College of Charleston transfers, Marlene Navor and Zeb Jasper. I don't know who's working over there, who's playing. It might just be a funnel, you know. The next up is Jalen Williams had some solid minutes, 8 points, 2 turnovers, 1 assist, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 6 of 6 from free throw line, which is when you hit, that's a big thing. Free throw lines we've talked about with a bunch of players. Hit your free throws and your game's completely changed. He hit 6 free throws, has 8 points total. I'm talking about how he had some solid minutes. Missed 2 or 3 of those, and it changes the game altogether. So solid.
Again, who does he back up? Jabari Smith in his career night. He only played 12 minutes. He did.
They were all in this like span, right? When Walker went off, that Jabari had 28 points. We sat him and we left him out for a while because it was a solid lineup that was really taking it to Vandy. We just said, screw it, let's leave him in.
And Jabari had played. They kept Jabari in for like 2 or 3 of his usual rotations and didn't take him out because he was so hot. So he needed a little break. But yeah, I mean, 8 points, 4 rebounds in 12 minutes. I love that he's getting to the rim and getting fouled. And for him, 6 of 6 at the line it's like Walker being 6 of 7. I mean, good to see your big guys knocking down, volume free throws. That's huge.
I feel like you want to see like everybody on the team under 30 minutes at this point, right? Like that, if you see that in a game, you're like, that was good rotation. Nobody got in weird foul trouble. No one got hurt or anything. The only guy that went over 30 is Wendell Green with 31 because Zepp had so much foul trouble. So like I just kind of like scanned through there. I think especially with Wendell, after we saw how winded Wendell can get with like 33 to 34 minutes, you hate to see him getting 31. So hopefully we can see, Zepp not getting foul trouble, then it'll go back down a little bit. Next guy, Dylan Cardwell, 4 points, 2 fouls, 3 rebounds. That's it. Bring the energy, bring in the red, had a good dunk. I love how enthusiastic he is with the crowd. I can't say that he got dunked on once or twice when Kessler was out. Vandy, man, they took it to the rim a couple of times. It was really shocking because we're so not used to it. They dunked on us at like 2 or 3 times in the first half. I think we cleaned that up, but it was kind of weird to watch after such a dominant block team to have that happen to us.
No doubt. I thought he and Devin Cambridge made a huge difference defensively off the bench in the first, when we were down. After the starters started going out in the first half, they settled the game in. The offense still wasn't quite there, but they just started getting stops. Cardwell is a different 5 guy. He can guard, and he kind of comes out and blitzes those like Scottie Pippen Jr. multiple times and really well. Like, it's hard to do as a big guy to not draw a foul but to keep him out of the paint. He got burned one time on a pass, but overall Cardwell does what he does. You love the energy. I saw a great shot of him pregame. The Auburn basketball Instagram posted when Devin Cambridge was doing his dunk to end warm-ups. Cardwell was on the ground pretending to take the photo from Fresh Row down there on the sideline. So he's an awesome guy, man. I love seeing him have so much fun with I saw him go high five some of the other athletes on campus in the front row during the game, so he always is doing fun stuff.
I mean, maybe not happy is the right word, but we thought there was a chance that we might have a similar like lineup to the Wiley, Horace Spencer, Anthony McLemore situation or whatever, and that Stretch and Cardwell would be kind of in the Horace level, like maybe worse than Wiley even. Like, I guess like Horace is kind of like honestly where I thought Cardwell might be, and he's definitely beyond that. I don't know how to describe it necessarily, but like Horace just was good for like 5 fouls and some athletic play, and like he was a big guy or whatever, but you didn't expect any points at all. You expected 0 points. Like Cardwell, I'm kind of expecting 2, 4, 6, something like that. Like you can just tell that he's got more touch than any of those guys had, or not any of those guys, but more than Wiley and Horace did like during that Final Four run. Really, it's the fact that when Cardwell's in, I don't really like. There is a big drop off because Kessler's just that good. But like I feel like Cardwell, like amongst those 3 guys in the Final Four team, would have been the starter. I don't know. It depends on rotations, but I just feel better than I have in the past about our like rotation. We only played 2 guys at center. Like we thought for sure we needed all 3. Stretch haven't played all year, which I feel bad for him, but like I don't know, it's pretty impressive honestly that we don't have to play 3, and that I feel good when Cardwell's in.
what are you going to do, right? I mean, you don't have a choice. I mean, we are the biggest proponents of having three centers because we've seen how hard it can be to keep guys healthy and on the floor and out of foul trouble. But again, everything we said about Kessler, you multiply times 5 because he also, in addition to all his skills, stays on the floor. Even when he's gotten in foul trouble, it hasn't really been his fault. He doesn't get out of position. He can play 30 minutes. That's the other reason. You heard Anthony talk about that. When they would sub out for each other, the centers, like 2 or 3 minutes at a time. Dude, Kessler could go 5, 6, 7 minutes at high levels of play at both ends. It's just crazy. And you're right. Him and Cardwell together, they just eat up that 40 minutes and they do. And I think Jalen and Jabari do the same thing at the 4. It's a great balance to have.
The last guy, okay, I guess next, we have 2 more to talk about is Cambridge with 6 points, 1 turnover, 1 block. The block was great. 2 steals, one offensive rebound, which I would have thought there'd been another rebound too. 1 big 3 that I felt like was classic or what we hoped for with Cambridge. But man, that block he just does a thing like every game, a freak athlete moment every game. And I don't know if he got an alley-oop this game or not, but the steal or the block he had was up there, dude. It elevated to get that block and said no, like hit it way out.
Dude, like we've said before, his career highlight reel is going to be like 18 minutes long. It's going to be some of the most incredible video we've ever witnessed. Just putting all that together in one video, it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be hard to explain to the kids that watch it one day and be like, listen, this guy was not an NBA guy or even an all-time great or anything like that, but his like they'll be like that number 1 team or this team or that team, like. Yeah, but the best highlight video is actually this guy Cambridge that came off the bench and just did some wild stuff every game, and it'll be weird.
I've said it all year. Defensively, he has come so far. He locked up Scottie Pippen a few times when he got switched on to him. He's battling his tail off on rebounding. I know he only had 1, but he always boxes out now. He's always in the right place. And Bruce is really, you can just tell with the minutes and how he talks about him, he's really proud of how he's developed his game so much more than being a 3-point corner shooter or just an alley. I know it feels like he's an alley-oop guy, but if you really watch all the details of what's going on, he is probably the biggest beneficiary of what's happened with Flanigan this year. He's just been he started most of those games while he was out. But he's just really, I think, being around all these other great players too. He's learning the little things so much better. So I'm really proud of him, and honestly, we've needed him in some of these moments, and I'm sure he's got a few more up his sleeve the rest of the way.
Yeah, they talk about not to talk about the Alabama team too often, but I think a big thing with the Alabama team, they've been so inconsistent. Everybody's talking about, they're so inconsistent. They beat these great teams, they lose these bad teams, and part of that's because they have some really good players on their team, but not really great backups. They're going to push them and hustle around them, and so they don't they have these big downs because they don't have anybody that can push them. So if like those 2 really good starter guys don't want to play super hard, there's no one they could put in behind them that's going to come in and do anything. You just got to keep playing them because there's no one better behind them. These guys, if Jabari's not having his night, Jalen will push him. Cardwell will push Kessler. Cambridge will push Flanigan. Like these guys will come in, like maybe they're not the like ceiling and the shooting and scoring is not there necessarily, but Bruce is not afraid to play weird lineups with these different guys in because they will push and they will play hard. We've seen how many times now that some weird lineup comes in with like no great score and they end up going on like a 10-0 run because they are like playing twice as hard as everybody else. So I think it like makes these other starter guys like stay on their toes a little bit too, that like, I got to keep pushing. These guys are pushing. He'll just say, sit there another possession when I want to come back in because Jalen's pushing and Cambridge is pushing and Cardwell's pushing,
Pushing P, right?
They're pushing P.
The 32-15 bench points. We talked about all year how big of an advantage that is. We won by 14. You win that category by 17. It's a huge, huge part of it, man. There's not many benches that can come in and score 30 points in a game. It's just go look around the league. It's extremely rare, but Bruce is so committed to it, and it's paid dividends probably more this year than any year at Auburn that I can remember.
The last player to talk about is Wendell Green. He's always less on my list for some reason. I use the ESPN one. I don't know why it goes down the list like that, but anyways, 12 points, 2 fouls, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. That's pretty good. You were talking about it was close to triple-double, actually, like 12 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. That's pretty great for Wendell Green. Like, 9 assists. That's got to be a career high, right? Has he had 10 plus in a game?
I think he's had 10 plus.
Okay. Still super impressive. 7 rebounds is good for him too. I don't think in this game too hard that I was like, oh, Wendell's doing something great. I'm surprised to see that stat line, honestly.
I was too. He struggled. I don't know all the X's and O details, but I can just tell you it looks different. I think teams are playing him at the rim and at the 3-point line because they know that's where he was doing a lot of his damage. And I think he's going to have to really work on and keep developing that floater in the mid-range game because that's what's going to be open. So I think when you combine that with all the film teams have on our plays and how Cambridge is always going to run up the baseline, right, for that lob, and Kessler's going to do that roll down the middle. We've talked about we don't run the most complicated offense all the time. So I think Wendell is feeling that the most because he's the guy with the ball in his hands the most. So I think you're seeing him go through kind of a mid-season funk a little bit there. And here's the irony. When you get to March, you get to the tournament, I mean, they're going to be scouting you, but they're not in your league, like watching you play night in and night out. So sometimes you get released of some of that when you go play New Mexico State or whoever, in the first round. So he's working through that.
You play a game 2 games later sometimes too.
Exactly. So he's working through some stuff. I'm thrilled to see the assist game there. That's the only other stat I was going to point out. So 20-7 in assists. I thought we shared the ball beautifully since Bruce has put that challenge on our guys. We need to share the ball well. We need to keep the ball moving on offense. Kind of that reduces the stagnant play that it feels like sometimes. Good stat line for him for how much he struggled in the first half. He was really quiet. I think he had 2 points. I don't remember a ton, maybe 4 rebounds or something, but it really felt like in the second half, he started becoming the maestro, dishing out the good passes. Kind of felt like a few weeks ago Wendell when he looked a little fresher,
We've talked about in the past podcasts about great players getting theirs no matter what happens in the game. Some of these great guards in the league, you see a guy like Scottie Pippen Jr. just goes and gets his. He got 29 points this game, but he's going to go get 15 plus almost every game. The fact that in a game where we don't really remember Wendell doing that much, maybe because Jabari and Kessler just played so well, but he went and got 12 points and 9 assists and 7 rebounds. He went and got his in a game that we didn't really think too much about. And that's maybe that's something great. Maybe that's its own check mark or its own reward to give, that you can have kind of a quiet game and still get yours. And because we're going to need guys to score those points.
And a great number for him, 2 turnovers in 31 minutes. That's where it should be. It's where it needs to be. He gets in trouble when he gets kind of the 5, 6, 7 turnovers a game, even though he has the ball all the time and he has to make a ton of decisions. That's a good game from him, valuing the ball, not forcing too many shots. I mean, he got 10, but he got to the line. He did a lot of good things for some of the struggles he's working through. So hopefully we're going to see him bust out on the other side.
Yeah. We try to keep these podcasts during the week a little short, especially how late these are, but we are so bad about that. There's so much to talk about. We love talking about stuff. Some cleanup stuff we'll do quickly around the SEC too. I will be most likely gone the next 3 games out of country. I'm going to try to, Matt's giving the thumb down. I was the president of the Bermuda Auburn Club for a year there, and I'm hoping to reestablish it when I get there. I'm sure there's tons of Bermuda Auburn fans that I've established while I was there, and I'll come back to my legions there, but it'll probably just be me again. You also can't even get ESPN, at least not my logins, ESPN there. So I'm going to try to watch the games. I might be able to pop on. I know you guys will miss me. I know, that the players will probably be texting because they won't know who their MVP is or whatever.
Oh,
hopefully
we're going to have MVPs, Jackson. Don't worry. For those of you, I know that makes everybody really cry. This really has been Jackson's baby. We joke about it. This was his idea. He puts a ton of work into a lot of this stuff. One of my good friends who I used to do a podcast with, Bobby Dyer, is going to be co-host for the Florida game this Saturday. I'm going to try to have I might have to do a solo one here or there depending on how things work out, but we're going to keep grinding towards a championship here in the States while Jackson gets out of the country for a little bit.
Hopefully we'll have another interview with somebody on the team too. We've had a great run now of kind of having 2 games and then a third of interviewing someone. We had KT Harrell and we had Anthony McLemore last week, and we've interviewed some interesting people like Marlene DeVore and Pablo Escobar, and even before that, Sonny Smith. Go back and listen to interviews. You can listen to those anytime, get in a car ride or whatever. Those are fun. Hopefully we're gonna have another one. And if we're looking at around the SEC here, theoretically, So Kentucky got beat by Tennessee on Tuesday at Tennessee. Tennessee kind of reversed the roles on what happened in the first game, where Kentucky shot this insane percentage at home. And it was kind of that turn that made all these media people and ESPN everybody go, oh, it doesn't care about the losses. Who cares about losses? They played that one great game. I guess Kansas was kind of that game for them too, where like they just will not shut up about Kentucky no matter what happens, that they could win next year. Anyways, Kentucky reversed that and shot great percentage and passed the ball around. I watched that whole game. And so now we have a 2-game cushion. And theoretically, if we win at Florida and we win Ole Miss at home, Tennessee, could they theoretically lock in a share of
they could clinch a share? Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Well, I'll miss the next 3 games, but if at Tennessee is if we win at Florida and win at home at Ole Miss, I might have to figure out a way to tune in via satellite or on a boat or something for that Tennessee game.
Well, we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be at that one. That's going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see how the podcasting goes for me. I'll be in Knoxville trying to figure that out. And I think we've said this, but Jackson and I are planning to be at the last home game against South Carolina, and that could be huge as well. We depend. I know Jackson feels this way. I do too. I mean, look, we'll take a share, but like, I want to own this title all to ourselves. I don't want to share with either. I hate those 2 teams. No offense to Tennessee, Kentucky fans. Actually, no offense to you. I don't want to share the SEC regular season championship with you. I'm thrilled we have a 2-game cushion again. A game I'm going to be watching this Saturday is Tennessee goes to Arkansas on Saturday. I would love for Tennessee to lose that game, get rid of some of their momentum. That's a really hard place to play, as we experienced, and that would bump Tennessee back. So you're a little less worried about them if you potentially lost to them. I don't even want to think that way, though.
Ton of parity in this league. We talked about wanting parity. Like, honestly, like so far, sure, Tennessee and Kentucky are breathing down our necks. But like, if you're going to write a script on like you're going to be a great team and have 1 loss and you need everybody else to beat everybody, the fact that Tennessee went and beat Kentucky when Kentucky was the one with 2, the fact that Arkansas went and lost to Alabama when they had 3 and were hot, like it just seems like every time we kind of need one to beat the other, it's been happening. So we just got to keep hoping that like Kentucky, I think Alabama goes to Kentucky this Saturday, and Ty is still having issues. Ty, like at this point, Ty and Xavier Wheeler get hurt every single game. So I don't want to hear about, oh, they were hurt. They get hurt every game. So that's just what happens now. So maybe, with them out, Alabama might pull it off, even though I'm not cheering for Alabama on that one. Like I said, Tennessee goes to at Arkansas. So we might, if the dreams come true, both them lose, and also we have a 3-game cushion,
Oh yeah. I mean, that would be it. And look, we just need to worry. The problem now, if you zoom out, Auburn's got 5 games left, and 5 games left are okay. 3 of them are on the road. I thought it was 4 out of 6 for some reason, but I guess it's 3 out of 5. So we go to Florida, 2 Tennessee, and 2 Mississippi State. That's obviously the biggest, and then you have Ole Miss and South Carolina at home. So like the 3 road games really feel like massive. So I mean, if you're looking at this Florida game, like, oh, they're 6 and 7 in the league, they're on the bubble, they're not that good. Like, first, I mentioned that they need a win like this for their tournament resume. That's huge. If every road win we get at this point is like you get that taste of a title, like even closer. So this is a massive game on Saturday, in my opinion. I'm really excited for it. I'll be really into that one.
We could lose a home game. It's theoretically possible that we could lose to South Carolina or Ole Miss. It feels like those are like, they're not going to be some big, they're not ranked. They're not good. Like you could lose it. You could, but like, it feels like we have a 2-game cushion. You could lose 2 of the next 3 road games, which are entirely possible. We could lose at Florida for sure. We saw Florida had a really good game against us at home. Like we had issues in that game at home. So going to Florida, we saw how much of an issue it's been to go on the road. You could lose at Tennessee for sure. In fact, at this point, Tennessee looked really good in that Kentucky game. I know like they could get up for that, and Bruce has had Tennessee's number, but I don't even know if we'll be favored in that game. Like they're going to have a lot of hype going, especially if they keep winning. If they go beat at Arkansas, they're going to be hyped. They're going to be like maybe a top 10 team even.
Well, if they win Saturday against Arkansas, I mean, they have the number 1 team coming to their place. Like they think they can get a share of the title. I mean, that's the way they're going to be thinking. So that I am thrilled with my timing of buying like a $40 ticket to that game because it's already like $100 for the cheapest to get in. It's gonna be a good game.
But we're in good position is what I'm trying to get to.
Yes.
Is that you could theoretically lose at Florida, lose at Tennessee, or like win, or you could lose 2 of those 3. And I think we're definitely I think you maybe should expect 1 of the 3. You could lose 2 of the 3, then win your home games, and we're still guaranteed a share of the title. Like you said, though, I don't want to share title, especially not with Tennessee or Kentucky. Like we did our SEC preview on who we're cool with winning the SEC, and they were 2 of the top 5 that we weren't cool with winning or whatever. So I'm just saying we're in a good position.
My last thing on this, I bash a lot of the preseason polls, but if you go back and look, if you listen to our SEC preview, if you look at the standings right now, if you're watching on YouTube, like it looks almost exactly like what the preseason polls were, except with like maybe 2 exceptions. I would say Vanderbilt.
Alabama was picked to win it all, weren't they?
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say Auburn is first instead of 5th or whatever they were. Alabama was in that top group. They've been a little disappointing. Vanderbilt's been a little better than what people thought. But overall, this looks, if I remember right, this is very close to what some of the preseason polls were in terms of like, there's clearly this top 4 teams in the league, and people thought Alabama would be there and Auburn wouldn't. That's the main difference.
Love it. Look at Texas A&M all the way down there. Remember when they were like at the top of the league and we were like, whoa, Texas A&M, oh my God. Yeah. They have come back down to earth.
Yep.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on this game?
No, man, just I think it says a lot about this team. Like I said, to win like this, as ugly as it was, Justin Ferguson, shout out. He called it an utterly chaotic game of basketball, which I think is a great description of it. And you win by 14, you cover. If you want a crazy Vegas number, Auburn is 18-8 against the spread, which if you know anything, like that's supposed to be a 50-50 thing. And so Auburn has been overachieving in a lot of ways. We're in a great spot. I'm glad you pointed that out. 5 games to go. I've wanted it all year. I'm craving the SEC regular season, and then we'll see what happens from there. Big games. Everybody, you got to hold down the fort while Jackson's gone, all right? We got to keep listening to the podcast. Got to keep locking in for MVPs. Undefeated at home still. Undefeated in regulation.
Yeah.
We're peacocking. We're still peacocking. Let's go.
The Kentucky fans are getting real. Like I said at the beginning of the year, like on the Reddit comment sections and stuff, Kentucky fans are getting really irritated with Auburn fans, and so is everybody else. I love it. I want everybody else to hate us because that means that we're doing something good. Like I hated hearing comments from Kentucky fans or Tennessee fans or anybody else. They're like, oh, it's just fun to have another good team in the league. Or it's like, oh, look, they're new and they're having a good time. Or not, hate us because we're beating you and you're tired of seeing us beat you. That's what I want to see. So, all right. Another win in the SEC. Don't take them for granted. War Eagle, Matt.
War Eagle.